Welcome to SEC Sports Roundtable. Catch you off guard right there, Blair. Welcome, Blair Smyly.
It's good to be back. It's been a while.
It has been a while. It's been a strange month of April and coming into May as we're winding this month down. With March Madness and all that went on there, you would think that it would be easier to do regular podcasts, but with most of the cast and crew having real jobs and real lives, and spring is a busy time for everyone in Tennessee, so it's made it difficult for scheduling. So I appreciate you making time to come out here and do this.
You're right. It's like spring is like the time everybody decides to get out of the house, and they do all their chores. So I spent all afternoon and all day yesterday in the yard, and today cleaning up a garage. So it's the spring chores. So I understand how it is.
Yeah, no, it's a never-ending list for me. So I can completely understand when someone is backing out saying, I've got to get something done in my yard, or I've got to do this or that. I completely understand, but it's good that you're able to make this in. It's a little, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can tell it's a little smaller cast than normal, but we're going to get one out. And, through this next couple of months, there's not a whole lot that goes on a regular basis. So we're going to at least try to do, at minimum, a two-person podcast. If it works that way. If we can get 3 or 4, we're going to be happy to get that on there to get the full roundtable effect. But we want to get information out to everyone. So
it's going to be kind of interesting because I was just actually looking at this last night, and I told my wife, and she wasn't too excited about it. But I was like, this is going to be kind of an interesting summer where there's not going to be much of a drag in sports, because
not at all,
because basketball has just now started, which has normally started earlier,
and we're talking
it's going to
NBA.
go so the NBA is going to go on into end of June, and then it's going to be like a 3-week layoff before the Olympics starts. And so you got the Olympics, and then you're going straight into football. It's going to be a really, really cool summer. I think it's going to be a chance to kind of catch up if you're a big sports guy.
Yeah, it's I always hate that the fact, it's the part of the America that I don't like, where everything needs to revolve around us. But, London's what, 12 hours or 8 hours, I guess? Different.
Sure,
it's a lot more than just a East Coast Pacific time coast, to work with our schedules. I'm upset now that the Predators are playing Phoenix out west, so it makes it difficult for me, to stay up that late to watch them. So I can only imagine what it's like when it's London time.
I hadn't even taken a look to see how all that's going to work. And
well, if it's like it was with the Winter Olympics, NBC doesn't show. It's basically tape delayed.
That's right.
And so anybody that's watching Twitter all day knows exactly what's happened, and now you're just watching a rerun. So, other than that, it's just that's the part of the Olympics.
And that wasn't too bad because it was just Vancouver, right? Was that in Vancouver? No, that was was it in Beijing?
That was Beijing was the
last
Summer Olympics, and that was 4 years ago.
So how did they do? Yeah, because you don't have Twitter 4 years ago that's really dominating, and then Vancouver was 2 years ago, right? Wasn't it Vancouver?
Yeah,
because that's just Western.
Yeah.
So, but I remember
there was all kinds of stuff tape delayed. So they didn't do a lot of live stuff. So it'll be real interesting how they do London. I know they did that with Beijing. So whether it was we just had a guest intruder there that was off camera and off mic. But that's going to be interesting. So that 3 weeks when we go into the Summer Olympics after July, it's going to be fun to see how NBC handles that and how we get to watch the action and how Twitter's really going to affect that this time. Because 2 more. It was there in Vancouver, and I guess it was there in Beijing. You would think Twitter was there 4 years ago, but it didn't have nearly the mass. I think that last I saw there was 500 million Twitter users. Facebook's 850. So
I would say the last 12 months it is exponentially just dominated. Even just a year ago, if you take a look at stuff. So I know for me personally, it's totally dominated what I do.
It's how you get information.
Yeah, it's how I get everything. It's how I follow college baseball. I sat there today and would just pop on my Twitter and follow all the beat writers. And it's faster than any type of internet, trying to figure out what's going on. So it's instant knowledge.
Yeah, so that's gonna change that aspect of watching the Olympics. But So, as we get through the summer months, really, though, there's going to be a lot of talk for football because July 1st, we have 2 new teams enter the SEC. So we're going to go to 14 teams.
Yep.
And so you add A&M, Texas A&M, and you add Missouri. So you're going to get a lot more to talk about from the college football standpoint. And believe it or not, we're almost a year old. I mean, our first podcast was the end of June.
Wow.
when we did
Yeah.
the first podcast. So we're 10 months in basically, and we were thinking, how are we going to be able to do a podcast year round? And by the time we started formulating a SEC East and an SEC West preview, and it was ridiculous how easy it was to get so much information out on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
And it just never stopped. And
Well, the good thing is that you have an SEC podcast. So an SEC is dominated by football, which is 365 days a year.
It is.
It was.
Except for that one little window
Yeah.
that Kentucky fans
Yeah.
get to
Yeah,
relish.
The funny thing is that I'm a big, obviously everybody on here that's listened to this knows I'm a Mississippi State fan, but the Super Bulldog weekend, State's spring game was at 5 p.m., baseball game was at 1 p.m., went into 13 innings. And actually in the 12th inning bled into the start of the spring game. And they said that I was following on Twitter, and they were basically just filing out of the baseball game. And they were like, only in the SEC are people filing out of a baseball game that actually matters to go watch a spring football game that has no consequences whatsoever. So it's the SEC.
It is. And, we mentioned Twitter, and let's just go on and get that housekeeping things out of the way. We definitely encourage you guys, if you're watching or listening in, to find us on Twitter. Follow us, SECSRT. We're on Facebook, SECSRT. Stitcher Radio is a great app out there on Android and iPhone devices that you can listen to the podcast. You can also listen to the podcast or watch the podcast on Facebook itself, straight from our stream on SECSRT there on Facebook. You can follow those links and listen and watch from our YouTube feed, which we are on YouTube. We broadcast these all on YouTube as well. The internet site, how archaic is that? The internet site we have is www.secsrt.com, and you can check out those. We occasionally do some live blogs there from the website itself. We have some polls. So I'd love to go out there and have some interaction on that. I think the last poll was talking about, I don't even remember what it was, and I just put it up just a couple days ago. But I'd love to have the audience come in and interact with us. Let us know how we're doing, what you like, what you dislike. If you are listening to it on a regular basis out there on iTunes, please let us know. Write a review. Give us 4 or 5 stars, whatever the max you can do. If you don't like us, don't slam us. We appreciate the fact that you don't like us. Not everybody's going to love us. Just don't listen, don't review. That's the easiest thing to happen. But if you do like what we have to say, we try to do this. We put a lot of work into it. It might not be ESPN studios or anything like that, but it's a bunch of guys that love sports that get around on a weekly basis, and we talk the SEC. And you're right, they do dominate, and it showed this weekend. We had we'll go straight into the draft talk.
Yeah.
I mean, we had the NFL draft, and you said football's 365, and it is. I mean, whether you're talking SEC players in the NFL or high school players going into the SEC or the SEC itself, there's always something to talk about. And this week it was the NFL's turn to shine, and the SEC came to play.
Yeah, and they ended up drafting the most players by a conference ever, and that was by 1. I can't remember what it was, but and again, the SEC, I think Alabama back-to-back with 4 people in the first round, which is just unbelievable. The interesting thing I thought was all 12.
Overall, it was 42 players.
Yeah, 42, yeah. And the interesting thing was the SEC was the only conference that had every school had a player drafted.
Thank goodness for the 7th round in Kentucky.
Yeah. Guy, is that right? Winston Guy?
And Trevathan.
Yeah, I mean, that you just got to take those guys. Those guys were tackling machines. But it's one of those things that just dominates. And the first round, I think we ended up with 9 that went.
That's correct.
And really had some surprises, which you always do. But I mean, how great is the NFL and their product?
And
that
4 from Alabama.
Yeah. And should have had
possibly 5.
Yeah, Upshaw that ended up going in the second round. But I think he has actually got the upside to possibly be better than Hightower and some of the other ones that actually went. But it's just amazing how the draft has gone from a all-day Saturday, Sunday, just kind of boring thing. Once you get through that first round to a must-see on Thursday night. And now that with the new CBA, I know this is kind of off topic, but when you get the CBA thing and all the trades that are happening and, then you get Friday night and you get to break it up and watch the second and third round. And then Saturday you got the whole day to kind of see, follow some of the people that you're following. Like I was following Vic Ballard and some of those guys. And so it's pretty cool. I mean, it's one of those things that the NFL just seems to not make a wrong move.
Well, and you brought up a good point about the CBA. It really changed the dynamics. And you saw that I was listening to Rich Eisen talk about it, and he said this is the fastest first-round draft in history. And it was solely because of that CBA. Players were not, or teams were not afraid to trade up to get a player because they knew what it was going to cost them. It wasn't going to cost them the bank.
Yeah.
And if they needed that position, they were willing to wheel and deal with another team to do that.
Yeah.
And so they were ready to make the pick. I mean, it's the trade's in, and we're ready to make a pick. It wasn't let's sit on it and debate.
Right. It's kind of funny. The first 7 picks, Indianapolis was the only one that picked at their original spot. And I would argue to say if Andrew Luck is not there, they're not picking in that spot. So, 2 through 7 moved into the spots there.
Let me throw this out then. So would you think that if Luck went last year, like there was rumor, would you say that they would have passed and not taken RG3?
I don't know. It all depends because every year is kind of you don't know what's going to happen.
Because then if you're looking what's left out there, that could have completely changed the Peyton dynamic too.
But I mean, it's also you got Barkley staying in, you got the kid from Oklahoma staying home. There's like 2 or 3 of the really stud quarterbacks that stayed, and so all of a sudden you've got Brandon Weeden going, 21st, and then you've got the other kid going, Tannehill going. So I mean, those guys.
We'll call him an SEC quarterback, right? They're here in 2 months.
It's just crazy. It's just interesting how it all works and how passionate it leads into the NFL and watching those SEC players and kind of having that SEC bravado, I guess you say, to just to dominate. It seems like right now.
Yeah, and what's amazing is some of the teams that didn't have players taken in the first round. If you look at it, Florida, Florida State, Georgia, I think Michigan, Ohio State. I mean, you're talking some big name, NFL machine type programs, and none of those had a player in the first round.
Yeah, it goes to show you why Urban Meyer left, and I think that SI article y'all probably have talked about in previous ones, but it kind of opened up the book on how bad of a state that program was in, and kind of gives you an idea if Urban left for health reasons or if he knew that he didn't have a bunch of players and it was kind of running it. Yeah, so it was pretty interesting. I think what was the wide receiver Ty? He was from FIU, Florida International. He's a little speed guy. He actually went before anybody from Florida State, Miami, or Florida went.
So he was the first one from the state of Florida was from FIU.
Yeah,
that's saying a lot. Well, and we've talked about it before, how those other programs in the state of Florida are able to compete now for those players. You're talking about the FIUs, the USF, UCF. It's not just Jacksonville, Gainesville, and Miami anymore. We're not talking about those 3 schools. There's 7 maybe legitimate schools in the state of Florida now that can recruit players from high school and put them on the field with the opportunity to play to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, you saw what Jim Leavitt did with South Florida and getting them to where, until he decided to beat up a player or push one or something like that. But, Skip Holtz takes over that program. You got Central Florida who builds, finally has enough swagger to build a $40 million stadium and kind of get their own athletic facilities instead of just being kind of a rental place from Orlando. And then you got FIU with that, I forget the coach's name, but he's always kind of the hot guy. He took over that program 5 years ago. And then you got Florida Atlantic, who is Snellenberger, I believe.
Yes.
Or one of those. I can't remember. I get those switched up. FIU may be Snellenberger. I can't remember.
I'll look it up real quick.
But, you got those schools. It's just an opportunity, with that talent-rich state to kind of take, especially when a Florida is down or
Cedric Calhoun, does that sound right?
I have no idea.
I'll just keep going here. No, Mario Cristobal.
Cristobal, yeah, that's who it is.
Is the head coach.
Yeah, he's kind of the new guy. I think FIU is like a 5 or 6 year old program in football, so he was kind of the guy that basically started them and has really built them up. He was the guy that was whispered for Rutgers and some of the other jobs along the East Coast that came about. So, but yeah, it's one of those deals where.
Yeah, and Snellenberger is Florida Atlantic.
Yeah, so it's you got all those schools, which is kind of interesting.
And those schools, 10, 15 years ago, did not have a program really that was on any caliber. So it just shows how many players there are in the state of Florida, and that these other schools down there realize that.
It also goes back to what we talked about several podcasts ago, was the development of high school players and the exposure they get with all of these 7-on-7 camps and all this other kind of stuff. So now, 15 years ago, the coaches didn't have a means of seeing kids, so they really were out having to find a gym. Now these kids are so well prepared coming into college that they're not necessarily Florida. If they're going to have to go sit for 3 years, they're not willing to do that anymore. So they're moving on into an opportunity where they can play. So it's kind of that deal.
Yeah, no, I think you're totally right, and that is changing the landscape down in those warm weather states, and you're starting to see those players be able to self-promote themselves in a way that they've never been able to do before, with YouTube clips and with Twitter, and being able to get their name out there, their brand out there. The 7-on-7 camps you mentioned, and the fact that they're going to get to play. I think that's a big enticement, because everyone knows that a football player, if they do make it to the next level, only has a finite number of plays they're ever going to be able to make. Yeah. So they're going to have to make as much money as they can in such a short period of time. Why sit on the bench for 3 years and not be able to increase their stock? Because that just means that they might go out as a senior, as opposed to they could go out as a junior. Yep. That's completely changing the football landscape. And something else, we'll switch subjects but stay on football, talking about changing the landscape. There was other news that happened in the college ranks Thursday that's going to change the way we look at bowl games, I think.
Yes.
So it's exciting. We don't know what's going to happen. I think Mike Slive had a huge win. Mike Slive, commissioner of the SEC, had a huge win in the way things came down. From everything I've heard, is that originally some of the Pac-12 and the Big Ten really wanted to be able to say guarantee conferences in that playoff spot, and Slive says, I want the top 4 teams. Yeah. And that came to and I don't even know who I can give credit to, but on one of the talk radios, it could have been when I was listening to XM, or it could have been here locally, but they were saying that if we didn't have LSU Alabama, we wouldn't have that conversation.
Right. And Arkansas.
Yeah. But those two, Alabama and LSU, being able to play in the championship game this time, if one of those would have faltered in some way, shape, or form, and Oklahoma State would have ended up there, we wouldn't have been having that same discussion. We would have been that top 4 conferences would have been able to push that weight a little more. And so now you're looking at the top 4 teams. And if you're still under rock and haven't heard, there's going to be a 4-team playoff. Yep. How it shakes out, where they're going to be played, how they're going to be played is yet to be determined.
Yeah.
But
2014, I think, is when the contract.
Yeah.
So that's what we'll be looking. So we got 2 more years of this.
is it two more? Is it?
It's the season of 2014.
Okay, so
so we got we got 2 more years.
Yeah,
then that's when the contract ends out. See, the problem, and you'll see this really push. I would really pay attention to Destin and SEC's kind of annual meetings they have at the end of May, 1st of June.
Right.
Because that's where Slive has already requested that he wanted to have information that he can hand his presidents. And so I'm really glad to see that. And to be honest with you, we just talked about this. I really think in the last 2 years, Twitter and social media, before you could kind of deal with the bowl system and it was kind of falling on deaf ears, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
If you got on a talk show radio and you just kind of griped about it, and you griped about it at a water cooler at work, nobody really was hearing it. But now with Twitter, it's so much more known, and the pressure becomes to build. It's kind of like the recruiting stuff you've seen in basketball and football, where releasing scholarships and all that type of stuff, and these coaches forbidding them to go to these different schools, and then all of a sudden it gets hit on Twitter, and 3 days later, school's releasing a different story. So there's pressure that's involved. So I'm really excited about it, because I think the conference presidents, or the Mike Slives of the world, basically went to presidents and said, this is how it's going to have to work. And what I like about it, and what I got out of the whole thing, was when they sent out the press release, you were kind of like, it's kind of washy, and then they started to talk, and you could actually tell. I mean, they've put it in there, so there's no going back.
Yeah.
And it's just all about how it's going to line up. I think campuses is going to be out of the loop. I don't think there's any way to actually do the campus site stuff. But the interesting thing would be, just take last year, Shane. If you had the top 4, it was going into the last week. It was LSU 1. It was Oklahoma State 2. It was Alabama 3. And then you had Stanford at 4. But you would have if they would have had a 4-team playoff, Stanford would have never ended up at 4, because Oregon would have been voted in, because, number one, they won the Pac-12, and they actually beat Stanford. But Stanford, just because of the rating world and the BCS rankings, kind of ended up in there. But the voters, they didn't really have the say-so whatsoever. And then they ended up voting to Alabama and Oklahoma State. So I think you would have actually seen an LSU, Oklahoma State, Alabama, Oregon scenario, where you're playing 1 and 4. So you're LSU and Oregon, and in that scenario. And I think what you're going to see, for me, I'd like to see the bowls incorporated, and we can get off on a whole new subject, but compared to the regional sites. But I think regional sites could work as well. But it's going to be interesting how it all works out. But I'm really excited about it, because I think it would have been done a long time ago if they could have guaranteed that it would have been 4 games and not expanded. But I think the way of the world, I think we're going to be 4 games probably for the next decade, and then I think things will, eventually possibly go the other route.
And we still have some unknowns there. One of the things that we do know, though, is that the NCAA got pushed out. Yeah. They're not a part of this, and they're the ones that control the basketball. I mean, they're the ones that do the 64 or 68 teams in March now for basketball. But they basically, because of this agreement and the way it's made, are they still have the possibility to stay with the BCS going forward. Yeah. To me, that doesn't bode as well for a regional game.
Right.
And I think the regional would be the most fun.
Right.
Where you had some sort of regional place. And I'm selfish, but the rumor was that if that was ever in play, that Nashville would be a perfect venue for that.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking as well. But from what all indications that I heard the other day on talk radio, the regional sites are going to be more of your Houston, Indianapolis, those venues that have retractable or they have domes type scenarios, because they said that the ability to play in that late weather information is going to be kind of interesting.
All I got to do is say Super Bowl 2 years ago. How well did that work for Jerry and Dallas? I mean, Dallas is retractable, and it's Dallas. It should have been able to be an outdoor stadium and been fine.
Yeah.
But
it's going to be interesting. And I think Cotton Bowl is going to be. I think what you're going to see when it all comes down is I think the Rose Bowl is just going to be outside of it. I think that the Rose Bowl is not going to be a part of the whole scenario, because I think that they're going to stick to their Pac-10, Big Ten ties, and that's just the way they're going to be. And I think that they're going to work with, a Fiesta Orange Sugar / Cotton Bowl. I think a Cotton Bowl is going to make a big imprint, and I think it's going to be conference. I think it's going to be somewhat conference tied with possibly the bowls that you're going to, but who knows? We'll see. So like the higher seed team would go, if it was LSU last year playing Oregon, they would have played at Superdome, and then Oklahoma State would have played out at Fiesta with Alabama. Then they would have had another site somewhere else. But I think that they're making too much out of the fan bases traveling. I think
for a play now, when you take playoffs.
Yeah, but I mean, if you take the scenario of if you're gonna.
But no. What I'm saying is that they're not weighting that heavy enough, because it's not just a bowl game now; it's a playoff game.
Right, and I think
you're going to travel for that.
Exactly, and it's just like the Final Four. It's just like, hey, you got Kentucky fans in the first round, you got Kentucky fans in Sweet 16, Elite 8, and you got Kentucky fans in the Final Four, and that's 3 weekends,
3 different cities,
and it's Thursday through Sunday on 2 of them, and it's Saturday through Monday on the other one. So it's a commitment to actually go. And so I think if you're dealing with your traditional teams that are going to be up there, fans are just going to travel. It's just not going to be that big deal.
And even if you're talking to Boise State, that would happen, in this scenario from last year, and they were able to come across and be undefeated, they were in the mix.
Yeah, I mean,
their fans are going to, breaking all odds here, come out and show up to see that game. So even the non-traditionals, that's a story in and of itself, and their fans are going to travel just for that.
I mean, you take the teams in the SEC. I mean, you take a South Carolina or a Mississippi State, or some of the teams that aren't going to be your traditional, hey, I'm going to be running for a national championship. It's kind of like the Auburn all of a sudden, make the run to the national, and they have the highest ticket demand ever, between them and Oregon. So,
and you're only talking 2 games. Yeah. That's a moot issue. I think that's irrelevant to a fan. They're going to find a way to.
I'm excited though.
Yeah, it's good to see that we're going to finally have a playoff. We're actually going to have a true national champion. There's still lots to work out that we haven't even talked about. How are they going to come to what 4 teams are the top 4 teams? Are they going to? Are they redoing the BCS? And there's talk about that. Are they redoing the BCS system the way they look? Are they going to get rid of the coaches poll? Are they going to keep the interactive?
But just think about how it changes, even in the system today, where, just think on how, it's so much dictated by the 2 polls, right? The 2 writer polls. So 66% of the vote is human votes. Well, just think if they're actually voting for the top 4. So how that changes then just, hey, trying to get the 2 people in the, so there's a lot of unknowns even if you're in the same system, because your voting's going to be different, because you're looking at a bigger, top 4 than you are who's going to be 1 or 2 and all that kind of stuff. So
totally off topic here, but it kind of brings your point home, is that I'm reading a book, and I think it's called Made to Stick, and what they're talking about is choices and doing, and they're going through all these scenarios. And one thing they talked about in this book, and it reminded me of this, is that a doctor given a case study and looking at so many number of people, and the choice was a medication that hasn't been tried when 31 other medications have been tried, and I'm going off memory, so could be wrong on those numbers. There's 32 medications that will work for them. They've tried 31 of them. So there's 1 left. There's either that or surgery. What's your option? And more times than not, they opt for the last medication. Now, if you take that and say there are 2 medications available and surgery, they then more opt for surgery. And it's because they have more options to choose from, and it's watered it down.
Yeah.
So that's going to be an interesting fact, and whether you're talking about back surgeries or picking the top 4, and all of a sudden instead of 2 teams, you're picking 4, and that same scenario is going to apply there to these coaches or whoever's doing these votes. So that's going to change the way that looks, and that's a good point that I hadn't thought of until I just made that connection while you're talking to me here.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good. I think what we'll also see is I think come July, we're going to know a pretty good scenario what's going to happen because basically they don't want to go into the fall having to answer questions. It sounds like, hey, we're making this move and let's go ahead and get all of this wrapped up so that we've got 2 years to kind of sit on it and we don't have to deal with this, in October, November when this whole BCS thing is going on from that standpoint. So I think you'll see some movement on that. So I'm excited.
All right. Anything else in the football arena that we haven't talked about?
I don't know what you want to talk about if you wanted to run through anything on spring football, but
well, sure. Yeah. You haven't made it here the last couple of weeks. I know we've touched on a little bit. Give me some impressions. You make it? You didn't make it down for Super Bulldog weekend?
I did not make it down. Most of my family actually went down, but I'm really excited about Mississippi State. I think for the first time in a long time, the first time since Mullen's been there, he's got an actual. He's actually got a quarterback that is pretty much set in stone going in. So you're not going into the seasons thinking that, hey,
there's no controversy that's going to happen.
Or I'm going to be running this 2 quarterback system just because, nobody's separated themselves. I think Dak Prescott, who's the backup, is going to see some play. I think they'll have some packages and stuff for him, but it's going to be truly Russell, taking the leap of faith. And I think across the board, Mississippi State's as strong as they've been. And depth-wise, going into last year, you were worried about the defense because they lost so much, and so you knew your offense was going to have to score. Then they had the rash of injuries, and their defense, after about 3 or 4 games, became the strong hold of the team, and they just couldn't get over the offensive inefficiencies. And then that's where they had to kind of flip-flop in between quarterbacks, and so this year is going to be interesting. I think the one spot is offensive line.
Okay.
Is still
a question mark.
Is still a question mark because you got a little bit more depth than you had last year, but you did lose 2 pretty good players from last year. So it's really going to be kind of, hey, can they stay healthy? That type of deal, and really it's going to be Russell's health. He's always kind of had a tendency to tweak a knee here and there and miss a game or something. So if he can stay healthy, we got running backs galore. We got wide receivers coming out of everywhere. It's unbelievable. And then our defense is going to be solid. I think our defensive line is going to be better than it was last year, even without Fletcher Cox. I think our linebackers are just going to kind of keep going and improving on last year. And then, of course, our secondary is going to be strong as can be. So with an All-American corner at one end. So I'm really excited. I'm way more excited this year than I was last year. Coming off the 9-win season, I knew that we could possibly have a better team but have a worse record. And we ended up having a worse record, but we didn't really have a better team. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be interesting.
Good. And I know Tennessee fans have to be happy with Justin Hunter. I don't think he played a lot, but
yeah,
he was back in action, dressed. In the practices, he was at least contributing to practice. And even though he's got the red jersey on, do not touch kind of thing, he was making some good catches and had some speed. It's not that testing the knee left and right kind of thing. It's straight downfield kind of stuff. But it's good to see that we're still 5 months. Is that about right? From the first game for Tennessee fans, and he's back on the field practicing.
Yeah,
and so that's going to be good for them.
I think that was a big boost for him too, because he got hurt so early in the season. That was September, so he a lot of times those guys they may get hurt October, November, later in the year. So he was way and I think in the spring game he actually played. He actually went full speed. Obviously, they couldn't tackle, so I think it built a little bit of confidence for him from that standpoint. I think Tennessee. The interesting thing, man, and we're going to have to watch this play out is, and I wish Drew was here because I'd like to hear his insight on it. But I saw something the other day, and I really never paid attention to it. But they are in which I don't ever hardly remember this happening other than a total coaching change. But a guy in his third year, every position coach is a new coach. So whether you stayed with the staff, you're actually coaching a different group. So every position that every player is on, they have a new coach.
So the only coach that stayed the same position is the head coach.
The head coach. And so, whether some guy was doing tight
ends.
And
that could just be 1 year difference.
I mean, so it was one of those things where I thought that was very strange. And that could be one of two ways. It could be, hey, it's a kind of a shake-up and people have new life and all that type of stuff. And so, but it's one of those things where you kind of got to watch that. And, from their defensive standpoint, I'm just interested to see how they blend that 3-4-4-3 Caesari
and talking to Tennessee fans. I mean, and we've mentioned this before on the podcast that after everything was shaken out at Tennessee and all the coaches have finally been filled and they're back to full staff, I think everybody is happier with the staff they have today versus the staff they had at the start of the season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think there is better chemistry. I think you're right, and that's a good point.
And they think it's all upgrades in positions. I mean, especially even if they were just moving over a spot, they considered it an upgrade because of who they were able to bring into those places. So, from a Tennessee fan standpoint, they're very happy with the way that's all shaken out.
Why don't we just run down the East and the West and just kind of whatever we know about them? I mean, you've got South Carolina, the ball coach. He feels good about his team because he had some nice little zingers that he threw out. I don't know if y'all talked about that before.
We didn't.
Where I don't know if you saw it, where they asked him about not playing Georgia the second game of the year. They moved that game. It's always traditionally the second game of the year, and his comment was, "Well, I always like playing Georgia the second game of the year because they always had a couple of good players suspended." and then they asked him who the best coach was, and he said, "Well, you got to go with Nick. Down there at Alabama, he's got a good thing rolling." He said it's kind of like Calipari up in Kentucky. He said, "Well, those boys, they're coming in there, and 3 years later, he's sending them, to the league." And he goes, "But if you want to be the best coach, you got to leave Alabama because they always win down there." So it was kind of like a slight little gig. So what it told me was that
he's feeling froggy.
I think Spurrier, and I think we all saw this last year when he finally kind of said, "You know what, we need to run the football, and I've got a running quarterback." And when you had Garcia, I don't think what people really understood was he was an absolute head case. He really just sucked the life out of those guys. When just mistakes, it was like, "Oh, here we go again" type of deal. So I think this Connor Shaw gives them a new, and I think for the first time, somebody going into the season that's not Stephen Garcia that could be a complete head case, and he runs the football. And now you got Marcus Lattimore, you got more running backs than you can think of. So I think they're going to run the football, and their defense is just going to be unbelievable again. So I think they're going to have the best team in the East, but I think Georgia's going to win the East again, because of schedule things that we were talking about. So I don't know much about Georgia other than Aaron Murray is just he had a good spring, but I know that Isaiah Crowley or whatever his name is, Crowell, whatever. But I heard he's kind of matured a little bit. Kind of taking practice seriously, kind of some of those freshman things where attitude-wise. So that's got to be great news for Georgia, and I think defensively they're still going to be good. So I think from that standpoint they've done well. Florida, I mean, the only thing that's come out of that was they got the quarterback competition that's going to go into the fall. So you just kind of got to watch that from that standpoint. And who else we got? Vandy From all understanding here in Nashville is that, James Franklin's, kind of working that system again. So it's going to be interesting to watch Vanderbilt this year because I think James Franklin. I think a lot of guys were kind of the old gentleman's agreement with old Vandy, and he kind of came in and stepped all over those gentleman agreement type of deals. Where I think there's going to be a lot of people ready to take on Vanderbilt this year, so I'm going to be interested to watch how that works. And they lost a lot on defense, so we're going to have to see how that works.
And that was really what was their strong point through most of the season last year was their defense. And now they had a great recruiting class, but how quickly can defense come in and solidify coming in being young? That's where one position you need some time just to get a little more mature. The other one is Kentucky, and it's no real upgrades there. They lost, like we already talked about, Guy and Trevathan.
Yeah.
So they've lost some big pieces there. It's still a lot of unknowns up in Kentucky. It's going to be
from quarterback standpoint. Where are they? Are they still going to be doing Newton or whatever his name was?
And think so. To be honest, I haven't.
You're still in dreamland from the basketball world. So
yeah, I haven't looked.
You don't even look at the football until it gets like July.
Yeah, we're Kentucky. Yeah, who
you were following the recruiting of basketball until.
That's right. We had signing day a couple weeks ago. Come on now.
Number one flat tops. I understand.
Number one recruiting class again for the third year in a row or something like that.
So we'll just bypass on Kentucky.
And that's what most teams in the SEC are going to be saying about Kentucky, I think.
I'm interested to see. There's nothing there that tells me that they've got a shot to win 7 or 8 ball games or 6 ball games.
And really, Joker's going to be on the hot seat now.
Yeah.
And they lost names escaped me. Assistant coach did
Martin?
T. Martin, not Ty. T.
Where did he end up going?
USC.
That's right. That is right.
And he was one of the. And Joker's a great recruiter. I don't want to take anything away from him. He's been a great recruiter, but T's been able to come in and do that because the head ball coach doesn't get to recruit like the assistants do. And he was really able to come in and make a name and do a great job recruiting at Kentucky.
That's going to hurt.
That's going to be a huge dent that's going to have to be filled on the recruiting side for Kentucky. Because there for a while, Kentucky never got the 4 and 5 stars. They might get a 4-star, but they were at least able to compete enough to be competitive in the SEC.
But T opens you up to South Alabama, where he's from, and some of those hotbed places. So. That you got in there and you had a little bit of momentum going as well from those 5 years of going to 5 straight bowls. So you had that kind of going for you. So
and Missouri's going to be they're going
to be good. James Franklin,
the other James
Franklin, the quarterback James Franklin. He had a little bit of a scope or something. Shoulder surgery or something, but everything.
I don't think there's
said,
any issues with that. Yeah.
So I'm interested to see. I think they've got a good defense. Supposedly have a really good linebacking core.
And they've been fun to watch. So that's going to be fun to watch them come in, and
they're going to be unlike Texas A&M. They're going to be a little bit different because they're not going to have a new staff. Texas A&M's got a whole new everybody, and they're kind of changing everything about that A&M, kind of taking this whole road into the SEC a little bit different, even printing off shirts that got North Carolina in them and stuff like that. But that's just – and the SEC signed off on the print of it, which is hilarious. But anyway, I'm interested to see Texas A&M because, Sumlin did a heck of a job at Houston, and he kind of came in and hit the recruiting side of that thing.
It's just going to be – like you said, with a whole new program there with A&M, and they were a program last year that I don't think lived up to expectations. They couldn't finish. Middle of the season, they had some games where they were up and couldn't hold on to leads.
They lost a lot.
And they lost a lot. They lost all their coaching staff, whole new coaches. So it's going to be interesting, but they recruited out of the state of Texas, so they've got a bed of talent that they're pulling from.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fun. I'd love to take a trip to College Station.
Yeah, we need to do
catch
that.
A game. Let's see who else we got in the week.
Well, you got LSU. If you just want to run down the list, LSU with Zettenberger. Zettenberger, I think is how you say his name, quarterback. So from everything they're saying is that he's legit SEC, quarterback. So. They're going to have a stable of running backs. their defense is going to be good.
Everybody said their defense this year is supposed to be better than last year, and it was unbelievable.
So if he can actually give them a down-the-field threat, unlike Jordan Jefferson could but he's also doing it for the first time, so they're still somewhat of an unknown, but it also helps when you've got 3 studs behind you and a defense that can shut down people.
But how many times in the SEC and college football in general have you seen that if you've got a good running back, a good offense, and a good defense, you can put a freshman quarterback in and succeed and do what if they're a good caliber.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got
he's supposedly the real deal. So
you've got quarterbacks now that start all 4 years, which you didn't used to have. So I don't see that. It's a huge issue for them at LSU. Ole Miss?
Ole Miss is, as my Ole Miss buddy told me, they're 3 years away from doing anything in the SEC. So they
say that every year, don't they?
Well, I tell you what, man, they had 20. If they would have had to suit up in the spring, they would have had 20 that they wouldn't have been able to play because of grades. They have 20 players, scholarship players, that were on academic probation in the spring semester. He actually played 2 practices with 11 players in an academic center, and it's not your third string tight end either. So they've got some issues there, so they may have some problems. But he's coming in trying to change the attitude, and I think his system, frees his system. I mean, he's been successful, so I think his system, if they can actually get it somewhat down, I think they can pull off a couple of wins here and there. But
they're not going to surprise. There's not going to be a lot of surprises coming out of Ole Miss.
They just talent level, they're just not going to be that good. The thing about it is that their attitude's going to be better. They're kind of finding out that Nutt just basically fell off the wagon. I don't know what in the world's. I mean, none of his players are going to class. He had no discipline whatsoever. So it seems like they may not be any good, but they're possibly going to be pulling all on the same rope. And so that can always, you never know
what can happen when that happens.
But I think just from a talent standpoint, they're going to need a little bit of a little time
to rebuild.
To rebuild. And you got Alabama. I think they're just going to plug right along. I don't. You said it last year. You're like, there's no way they can replace all those guys. There were 4 guys in the first round.
But they did.
And they did it again. So
and they have the cupboard full again this year. Alabama and LSU have such a deep bench, both offensive defense, that they don't miss a beat.
But I mean, I'm just sitting there thinking of, you got. Man, you can't even name them all. You got Hightower, you got Upshaw, you got the middle, the defensive tackle went on Saturday in the draft. I never even heard of him. Dre Kirkpatrick goes. He's one corner. Menzie on the other side goes like 4th or 5th round. Barron goes, who, my goodness, is what they're saying is the most ridiculous safety to come out in 5 years, and that's a position nobody cares about in the NFL, and he goes 7th. So, I mean, those are some big hitters, and I don't care how good you are. The good thing about Alabama is that, number one, their defense is always going to be the next guy in line is going to be good, but their offense, I think, is going to be even better. Or I don't say that because you had Trent Richardson, but I think they are with with Lacey and some of those others that you're going to have behind in the backfield. I think with I'm drawing a blank on McCarron. I think he's going to be much more confident.
And he looked good in spring ball.
And so I think I don't know what they got from a receiver standpoint and how they look, but I think they're just going to be strong as ever. Auburn, I mean, you got Kyle Frazier is going to be the guy. It looks like from a quarterback standpoint. You lose Michael Dyer, but from all intents and purposes, it sounds like he was,
the basket case as well. I mean,
so it sounds like they all might have a better attitude from that standpoint. I just think I'm just going to be interested to see. I think we play them the second week of the season like we always do. It's the only game that hadn't changed for us. So I think we're a better football team than them, but most people don't even think that we'll actually play with them. So we'll see.
Yeah, I was trying to look it up. Alabama had 8 draft selections, so 5 of those in the first 40 picks. So
At some point, you think that's got to slow you down, and all you need from Alabama is for them to lose 2 ball games. I mean, that's all you can pray for.
And the surprise out of that, though, is Georgia was 7.
Yeah.
I mean, for
Georgia had some studs.
and I'll just run down it since we're on it. South Carolina at 6, LSU 5, Arkansas 4. You guys had 3. Where's LSU? Did I read them?
Yeah. You said they had 5, I think.
Okay. Yeah, LSU with 5. Florida with 2. Kentucky, Vandy with 2. Auburn with just 1. A year removed from a national championship with 1 player going pro.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be interesting. We saved the best for last in Arkansas.
We'll hit them next to last. Did we?
No, I think we got everybody. Got Ole Miss, Mississippi State, LSU.
Okay.
So Arkansas, 65-0 in the spring game. And your quarterback throws for 404 yards in the first half.
So let's talk about not missing a beat.
Yeah. Well,
and
is that a?
The coach and the new head coach has only been away from the program for what, 2 months, 3 months?
Oh, he hadn't even been that long. April 5th or April 1st or something.
Is when he took Weber State?
No, it was
I was talking about when he left, because he was on the staff.
No, I don't think he. I don't know.
Was he out of football all last year?
I don't think he was on the staff last year.
Okay,
or he may have been. But John L. Smith is who obviously we're talking about, and
definite Arkansas ties if you can't tell.
Yeah, it's one of those things. He takes his alma mater, Weber State, and he fills out his coaching. If you're an assistant coach that said, "Hey, I'm going to leave where I'm at right now and go to Weber State with John L. Smith," and 3 weeks later he takes the Arkansas job for 10 months. And there's not a scenario. People are saying that, hey, if he goes 11-0 or 12-0 and they win a national championship, they're not going to get rid of him. Yeah, they are. They're going to get rid of him. He's there for 10 months. He's just a carrier. And he's going to make $850,000. And and maybe can slide straight on into another role with a new program. But Arkansas is not saying, okay, we're going to give you a 10-month contract to hire John L. Smith next year, no matter how well they do.
So it's a definite stopgap.
Yeah. I think what they're doing is they're setting the table. I think Arkansas said, I think their AD called 5 or 6 guys and said, hey, would you want to come over here? And they're like, man, it's just not a good time.
Yeah.
And then they go, what if November is a good time? I think that conversation went on with their intermediaries. So I think they have a list of 5 people that they're going to go, and I think it's going to be a big name. I think Arkansas it's not gotten here to go, hey, we're going to take an assistant coach. I think they're going after a big name.
They have to have a big name in their back pocket. And I say that for the simple reason that you can't give a head coach a 10-month contract and expect them to have any type of recruiting out of this coach. Because he knows he's a stopgap. Yeah. He knows that the only way he's going to stay is he's going to have to win the SEC West, and that means he's going to have to go through LSU and Alabama to get there. Yeah. And the chances of that happening, if they didn't happen last year, aren't going to happen this year. And so what effort is he going to give on the recruiting side?
Well, I think
but then you're going to, look at what the coach is going to have to come into to try to catch up.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden you're talking about a full year going without recruiting.
Yeah. They'll be recruiting, but it is going to be tough. And the thing about it was, that was the genius of Bobby Petrino, because, if you go and look at the recruiting rankings, look at them. They're below Mississippi State and Ole Miss. They're getting a 4-star here and there, but they're not competing with Alabama and LSU in the recruiting standpoint. And Fayetteville's kind of in that weird spot where it's kind of difficult to get kids to Fayetteville. It's not an easy place to get to,
right?
Because it's way up in the northwest part of Arkansas, and so that was the genius about Bobby Petrino. He did it at Louisville. He did it everywhere he's been. Was his system. He was such an offensive genius, and he can create a game plan, and he could just basically out-script you and make people run his system. And now you don't have that. I think they're going to run the same thing, and I think you got a heck of a quarterback, and you've got all kinds of weapons. But to me, it's 65-0 in the spring game tells me, you just lined up ones on twos, and it wasn't even competitive.
Right.
And a lot of people can say, well, Wilson's just going to blow the SEC away. But, I mean, what are they going to have from a defensive standpoint? I mean, last year was the best defensive team they were going to have. And they still couldn't get it done from a defensive standpoint. And there's no way. I mean, they got a lot of losses from that defense. So I'm interested to see. It's going to be a shootout. But, I mean, you lost 3 receivers. I mean, do you got 3 more of those suckers there?
I mean, like you said, it's a system,
I know.
and it's easy to put people into a system. I mean,
I don't think you can have this scenario and it just be a positive thing. I think that the kicker is, if they have a hiccup early in the season, what does it do? Does John L. Smith have enough cachet, to kind of carry it on? Because, I mean, if you're an Arkansas player right now, it's not going to affect you, but come the fall, you're going to be pretty ticked off at Bobby Petrino.
Yeah.
Because I think, this was the year, that they were going to kind of line it up. So I'll be interested to see. I'm hoping they're way off the wagon by the time they come to Starkville next year in late November. So
it's going to be interesting, and so we've got 14 teams. Spring football is wrapped. Got a guest visitor there. It's going to be interesting to see how all that plays out. But the good news is we get to talk about it for another 4 months before we get to actually play football. And we'll have our East and West previews as we get a little bit closer in. So, I think we've covered all our bases. Let me look down my list to see if I missed something there.
You want to talk a little baseball?
Baseball. How could we forget the Kentucky Wildcats being #1 in basketball and baseball currently? So, SEC just dominating all sports. #1 in football, #1 in basketball. Realistically, no matter what happens with Kentucky, probably a good shot at finishing #1 in baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, we have 6 teams. I think 7 if you want to count one of our.
Yeah, I think Mississippi State's going to be back in that 25 this week. Yeah.
I'm going to say 8 counting A&M's, who I was thinking of, though. I was talking about A&M's out there as well, and they're more or less an SEC team because Big Ten's knocked them, and they're not giving any love out there. But, right now, 7 teams realistically in the top 25 by the end of the season. All indications from the brackets for top 10 go to Hoover for the SEC tournament. And that's just 3 weeks from this Tuesday. So, 23 days away from the day from when we're recording this. We're going to have the SEC tournament, and then you're going to go into regionals and super regionals right after that. Yeah,
I think with 9 games left, the rankings are UK's 1. Now, UK, LSU, and South Carolina are 1, 2, 3 right now, but they're all tied at 14 and 7. Florida would be the 4th seed. Arkansas would be the 5th seed. Auburn would be the 6th. Mississippi State the 7th. Ole Miss the 9th. Ole Miss the 8th. Vandy the 9th. And Georgia the 10th. And so Tennessee and Alabama looks like they're pretty much going to be solidified in the bottom.
And they would probably have to sweep their next. And neither one of them have the talent to do that.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing here is the difference between number 5 and number 10 in the SEC baseball right now is 2 games. So, a bad weekend, you
get swept.
I mean, Mississippi State going into last weekend was 11th in the SEC, all by themselves 11th, and they swept Tennessee and were tied for 7th and were 1 game out of 5th. And 2 games out of 12th. So it just kind of shows you how even it is. And so I think from that standpoint, I think really the team, in the West, Mississippi State has won 5 out of 6 or 6 out of 7, 5 out of 6 SEC games, and their pitching is just unbelievable right now. So they're the team in the West that's kind of started out real slow, and South Carolina started out even slower than Mississippi State. They're back-to-back national champions and got all that pitching, and all of a sudden they've just hit a groove, and they're just mowing down people in the East, and they've got the pitching staff to do it, and they've got the offense to go along with it. Mississippi State's kind of doing it with with a little bit of everything. They're in the 5-game winning streak. They batted .201, but they allowed 4 runs over 52 innings. So, good pitching is going to get you a long way. So it's going to be interesting to watch because we got 3 weekend series we said left. So
yes,
so a lot of that's going to be decided, and so 1 through 10 can all flip flop. I mean, you got 14 wins down to 9 wins. So.
But the one thing that's probably safe is the top 10 teams or the 10 teams that are in. Now, where they finish over the next 3 weeks is another story.
Yeah. Tennessee and Alabama, I think, are going to be pretty much solidify themselves. Tennessee has got 7 wins, but they just lost. I think their closer, one of the better players, was just
not with injury,
relieved,
but
from the team. And then Alabama has just not been playing that well. So I think it's pretty safe to say those 10 teams are going to be the ones to get into it. So
and Mississippi State's got the ability to really make the charge because who do they have? They've got Kentucky.
They got Alabama this weekend, so they should have a good series. So they need to go down and sweep that series. But then they got Florida at Florida and Kentucky at home. So those are rugged 6 games there. So, but the thing about Mississippi State is they're pitching. Yeah.
But you want to be able to play the people that are in front of you.
Yep, exactly.
That's the way you make headway, and you've got those 2 teams right there that you can make a lot of headway against. It's Kentucky and Florida.
And I think South Carolina and Mississippi State, the reason they're making a push is because of pitching. State's got their Friday night starters, Chris Stratton, who leads the SEC in strikeouts, and he's 8-0, so he's the first 8-win. He got that on Friday night, so he's the first one to reach 8 wins, and he's undefeated. And I think South Carolina's Friday night starter is the only other one that's undefeated. So Ole Miss and Mississippi State played on Friday night, and Wall, who's the big stud for Ole Miss on Friday night, was undefeated as well. He took the loss, but it's that's what's keeping Mississippi State, because Mississippi State's not very. They're not offensively gonna whip you around. They play in the biggest ballpark too, in the SEC, which is
in number of beers consumed. Is that what?
Yeah. But so it's one of those things. But it's awesome. I'm getting now that's kind of settled down and you can kind of get into a groove. It's nice to kind of watch what's going on. But for you as a Kentucky fan, Kentucky started out 24-0.
Yeah, it was
totally unexpected, but
nobody picked Kentucky. It took them a while just to crack the top 25. And
Cohen had built them, before he came to state. He had built them into a top 25, and they had won the SEC that year. That he ended up coming to Mississippi State, and his assistant stayed at Kentucky. So he's obviously followed right along and kept those recruiting and put together a pretty good squad. So. And they're all, it's not a bunch of guys who are going to go, okay, he's a major league draft guy. It's like they're just a good, consistent ball club.
Yeah, it's a good team.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of superstars out there. Yeah. And so, we're getting close to playoff baseball, and that's when the very, very casual fans seem to get somewhat interested, because that's of the 3 major sports in the collegiate world, that's the one that's going to get the least coverage. And
it's kind of interesting because State is really kind of like that 8th, 9th, or 10th team in the SEC, and they're not in the top 25. Like you said, you got 8 of them in the top 25, counting Texas A&M. But State's in that 8 to 10 range right now in ranking of the SEC, and they're like 38th in RPI. So it's one of those things where all you got to do in baseball, because it's not like basketball or football. You're just not going to be able to dominate all the time, and so all you got to do with good pitching is just get into the regionals, and you get into that 4-team round robin baseball double elimination, and then you get the opportunity to go to the super regional, and anything can happen. So be interested to see how that works out.
Yeah, and
it's always a fun time.
So how many teams in that bracket get a bye? There's 10 teams that make the. Do you know how that bracket works out?
I'm not really sure, because it has been 8 teams, so they all played the same amount.
Let's see if I can pull that up.
So it looks
4 and 9. So one gets a bye.
Yeah, one.
two gets a
So
bye.
it's got to be two. Yeah.
It's just the top two teams get a bye. So
And that's pretty tough right now because now you got three teams that are 14-7. So I really think that you got Kentucky, LSU, South Carolina. You could probably throw in Arkansas or Florida. I mean, God, man, those five right there.
And see, Kentucky has Florida and Alabama and Mississippi State.
Yeah.
So if they can have a good series next week against Florida, that's going to go a long way.
Those are two good series to end on. That's for sure.
Yeah. So they get Florida, then they get Alabama, so they get to possibly sweep there in Alabama and then come back to play Mississippi State. Or no, I think that's at home. I think it's in Lexington. Would make sense. They would be at Lexington.
No, it would actually be in Starkville.
No, I'm talking about the Alabama game.
Yes, the Alabama would be.
Alabama would be up in Lexington, then they're in Starkville to close out the regular season. So that's the great news is that everybody's going to be playing everybody else over the next 3 weeks. So you're going to see it really shake out and understand it a little better, especially after next week's games. Now you're down to 6, and it's going to be a lot easier to figure out then. So with that, it's that time of the podcast where we're going to do the open mic, and it's been a few weeks since you've been on. Blair, anything good that you'd like to throw out there? No,
I'm just knocking out my spring list of stuff to do. So, but other than that, I mean, it's nice to be summertime. Spent all day yesterday in the yard and today in the garage. Then, took a nice little Sam Adams summer ale and cooked out on the grill, cooked some burgers, and, got to, get the little guy out and play in the front yard and throw a little football and throw a basketball that rolled about 800 yards away from my house down the hill and almost got hit by cars.
Oncoming traffic there, yeah.
So, but other than that, everything was good, man.
Well, good. Well, where can people follow you?
They can catch me at Blair Smyly. That's SMYLY.
Has there been a tweet yet?
There has not. I'm saving it, man.
It's going to have to be historic now. I mean, it's just building.
I know.
Well, you can follow me at P. Shane Bailey. That's my Twitter. For me, I turned 40 this year.
Austin, right?
Austin, yeah. Turned 40 back in
Austin, Massachusetts.
Yes, turned 40 back in February. But the way the schedule works for my wife's company, they close out their fiscal year in March, so going on a trip would be out of the question. So we pushed it back to April, and so last weekend we. A couple of couples and my wife and I went to Austin for an extended weekend, and it's definitely a fun city. It's definitely on my list to go back, but it's not what I expected.
Oh, really?
And I hope people are listening down in Austin and correct me and tell me where I need to go next time. But I had to comment to my wife. It's like, I was expecting a lot hotter women here, because you hear about how hot Texas women are, and you're right there at UT where I've seen the cheerleaders on TV, and they got some good-looking cheerleaders and the little cowboy outfits, and it's just like, there's got to be a lot of good-looking women here in Austin, and I was just not impressed with the number of good-looking women we had now. But the food was incredible, and a friend that lived in Texas for a while said, it could have been the fact that the reggae festival was going on that weekend, and because I told him, he says there's music everywhere. I said, yeah, I know, there's a reggae festival. So afterwards, he said, that could have been the reason that the women weren't out like we would expect, because we saw so many alternative girlfriends, we'll say, out there. And the other thing that surprised me was how committed the Texans are to their tattoos. I mean, the women out there don't just have a tattoo; they have a tattoo. I mean, it's all the way down their arm, full color ink. It's a digital print on their arm or something. Yeah. So if a woman down there in Austin generally had one tattoo, they had a huge tattoo, or they had a number of tattoos. So they went large when it came to the tattoos, and I was surprised at that. But it's a very tech city, but I didn't see that. I didn't witness it like I thought I would. But the food, the entertainment was incredible.
I saw a breakfast that you tweeted out, I believe, looked good.
Yeah, it was delicious.
I've been to San Antonio, which is one of the greatest, probably one of the better cities I've ever been to. And we went over to Austin for kind of an event and then came back. So I didn't get to see anything. But San Antonio, it's just, I mean, I would go back there in a heartbeat. The Riverwalk and kind of the ambiance of Texas. And I'm a big Texas fan. I like Texas.
Yeah.
I love the brisket and, you know, the Tex-Mex and just kind of the whole culture. So that kind of disappoints me that
But we had, I mean, the food.
you saw the bats though, right?
We saw the bats on the Congress Bridge. But we did have one event that did go on that was good timing for us. Was Willie Nelson had a statue unveiled.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And it was unveiled right out in front of Austin city limits on 420 at 420. You know, they unveiled a statue. It was how fitting. And Willie had to comment about that.
That's great.
Two or three people down, you know, it's like, what's that smell? Oh, that's what that smell is. Right there in the middle of Austin, broad daylight, 4:20 in the afternoon. There's people firing one up.
Awesome.
The cops are like 10 yards to my left, and two groups of people over. They're just lighting one up, and you see the smoke just going up into the air to filter away. So you know, it was an interesting time, but it was a great time. So I'm glad to do that, and I thank my wife for getting all that scheduled, and all my friends for making that trip with me. But with that, we're going to call this podcast done.